What if Dungeons and Dragons became real? What if a makeup world of kids became real with real life consequences? Monsters, magic, responsibility, and reality collide. And you have children that are forced to grow up fast. What's going on, guys? So, some of you may know me. I'm G Play 7. I'm a variety streamer extraordinaire, average, below average gaming level skills. A lot of user error skills. But I decided to expand and decided to do this. So welcome to the first ever Papi Recap with G Play 7. Some of you know me as G, some of you know me as Papi. I decided to do a little podcast kind of thing where we break down seasons, we break down arcs, we break down, I give you my thoughts on theories, if it's an ongoing show, if it's something that ended, I'll give you like ideas of things that were really cool, maybe facts about the show or facts about characters. Um, I break it down into parts. Either it's going to be either episode by episode, or I break it down to you into combination of episodes, and give you like the important details or what was important for me, what stood out to me. So yeah, since Stranger Things ended recently, I decided that we're gonna that's the first one we're gonna do. We're gonna do Stranger Things and jump on that wagon while it's still hot. So, I've watched all of it. I've already watched all of it. At some point, we will do like a little bit of reaction as well, like reaction podcasts, episodes where we're live watching something new. But for now, it's more of a breakdown, and just make it to where the shows that I break down are either people that don't know other people that watch it. Like, for example, one of my favorite ones, Teen Wolf. Not a lot of people know about Teen Wolf. I mean, there are a lot of people that know about Teen Wolf, but it's hard for you to connect to other people unless you like look up, Reddit or Facebook groups or anything like that. It's kind of hard. Like, there's some people that are like, oh yeah, I remember that show. But like, that's one of the shows I want to do. That's one of the shows that I really want to get into. But I decided to start with this. So, um, okay, Stranger Things. It was originally supposed to be called Montauk, and so it was inspired by a real life hidden experiment that was happening. I think it was during the Cold War, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so it involved like mind control, psychic abilities, um, time manipulation, interdimensional travel. Like there was all kinds of things. Like there's records, but they've been sealed in a vault. So there's not like a lot of available documents that show everything that they were experimenting. But the real question is not if like that happened. The real question is like if it worked. So we're gonna break down the first four chapters of the first season of Stranger Things, and that's gonna be the vanishing of Will Byers, the weirdo on Maple Street, Holly Jolly, and the body. So let's get into the first. So in the first episode, you got four friends playing D&D, and those are going to be Mike, Dustin, Lucas, and Will. That's going to be our main core, and then it starts expanding. There are going to be other characters, but like obviously, like the show's going to revolve more around the kids at first, and then it's going to like start expanding into other people and their stories and their involvement. There are going to be a few other characters that are involved, but for the most part, in my opinion, I think the show revolved more around the kids because they're the ones that have to grow up the fastest. Like the grown-ups are there, obviously, and the grown-ups are involved. Some of them, not all of them. Some of them later on become involved, but it's more about like kids growing up fast and like how do they like their sense of normalcy gets taken away for some, and for others they're trying to find that sense of normalcy because they never even had it to begin with. So we got some friends playing D&D, and you know they're playing this campaign that they've been working on for like 2 to 3 weeks. Will's the sorcerer, and Dustin and Lucas are by his side. Will's about to like they're at the end of the campaign, and they think that they're about to fight like this little monster, and they're like, it's a done deal. We passed this area, we're good. And then it turns out that it's a demogorgon. So now the party's like strategizing. You got Lucas on one side telling him, burn him, just fireball him. Then you got on the other side Dustin telling him, no, don't do it because you got to roll a 13 or higher. So just cast a protection spell and we're good. That's all you need to do. So Will's like torn. He decides he's going to roll it and fireball him. So he went a little too excited and the dice fell off the table. So you got Karen interrupting the game. She's like, hey boys, it's school night. Like, what are you doing? Come on, let's go. He's like, Mom, come on, just give us like 15 minutes. We've only been playing for 10 hours down there. She's like, you've been playing for 10 hours, bro? So anyway, they find the dice and it's a 7. They're like, don't worry about it. It got interrupted. It didn't happen. Let's pick it up next time we play. But as Will's leaving, he literally he's got a conscience. Like that's one of the things that make Will the character that he is. It's his sense of justice, his sense of good. So before leaving, he tells Mike, he turns to him and he was like, it was a 7. Mike's like, what? It's like, it was a 7. The Demogorgon, it got me. And so then he starts biking home with the rest of the gang. So then they split up. Will and Dustin race, and after they get to Dustin's house, Will keeps on biking to his house, and this is where it starts getting that creepy vibe. All of a sudden, there's a mysterious figure that appears in the middle of the road, and a lot of people thought there was a theory. Once the later seasons came out, there was a theory that that creature was the main antagonist of the series, or one of the main, like what becomes the main antagonist of the series later on. And the Duffer Brothers, they were like, nah, it was just a Demogorgon. So it just foreshadows that appearance of Will encountering the Demogorgon, and it was pretty cool, just that moment, because that's where like it starts, like the worlds start colliding, a fantasy world and a real world coming together. So then after that, Will goes home. He races home scared. He falls off his bike, right? Like he runs home after that. He gets home, and when he gets home, he locks the door, and all of a sudden, this is where they start introducing psychic abilities as well, because the latch starts unlatching from the outside. So it implies psychic abilities. This is where there are other theories saying that it was one of the main characters, and that was another reason why they thought that the figure that appears in the beginning of the show, because it's kind of dark, you don't really like see it per se. You just see the figure. So that's why one of the theories was that it was the main antagonist. But it wasn't. They just never explained that one. Like they literally never explained how that happened or who it was, unless I missed an interview or I missed Like maybe you have to do like some deep dive research in order to find the answer. But yeah. So then after that, Will, he runs into the shed behind the house, starts loading up his rifle, and all of a sudden, like, figure rises from behind him already in the shed, and the light starts flashing really bright, and then goes down. He's taken. So the morning after, Joyce was working late. His mom and his brother was working late, so they both got home late. So then they're like trying to wake him up and find him. They're like, "Oh, something happened." So Joyce calls the Wheeler's house, Mike's house, and Karen just like, "No, he left." So they're like, "Okay, cool." So Joyce then she's like, "You know what? Maybe he just left early for school, but something didn't sit right with her." So then everything else just kind of like keeps going normal. The boys get to the school. They notice Will's gone, um, and that's when like they they kind of like show a little bit of like the normalcy of Hawkins at that time. So this is all taking place in it starts November 6th of 1983. So it's in the 80s. So it's not like, like people are like, yo, texting each other, where are you? What's going on? Or like, seeing social media or anything like that. So then we get introduced to Chief Hopper, who is an authority figure, and he's broken. He is going through a loss. It's not a recent loss, but it's a loss nonetheless that he carries heavy with him because his daughter died. They do the reveal a couple scenes later, but for me, I think what stands out is that he's numb. He's numb to everything. He's just going through the motions. And it could be just because of the fact that maybe he's going through imposter syndrome, where he feels like he doesn't belong, or he doesn't deserve to be in the authoritative figure or position that he is. Just because of the fact that something happened to his daughter, and like he's the protector of the whole town. So how is he supposed to protect the town when he can't even protect his family? So as the kids, then we go back to school, and the kids are still waiting for Will. And this is one of the cool parts about the Duffer Brothers and like how they wrote things. So Dustin, the real life actor Gaten, he suffers from cleidocranial dysplasia, and it's a condition where people basically like their teeth are either don't grow or they grow really slow, and so they're missing teeth, or they'll have like a weird, like their mouth is weird shape because of like missing or late coming teeth. And so they wrote this into the show, into Dustin's character, and it's pretty cool because of the fact that when they did that, it rose awareness in real life towards people with this condition. So that was something that was pretty cool. Then we get introduced to Nancy, Mike's big sister, and Barb, Nancy's best friend. And Barb became like a sort of a fan favorite character just because of the fact that she was relatable. She was just somebody that's like, like the best friend to somebody who you grew up with, and now they're branching out. Now they have opportunities to hang out with other kids, and it puts a strain in the friendship because now you feel like you're going to be left alone. You're going to be left behind. So a lot of people like related to Barb. She became she became like a cult favorite. So then we also get introduced to Steve the Hare Harrington. Yeah. Which is king of the bullies at school. He's the cool kid. He's got everything. He's got the hair, everything. And so after that, Joyce decides she's gonna go to the police. She's gonna file a report because like Will's not at home. He's not at school. Like, like something is wrong. So she goes to the police. She files a report. At the same time, you got Hopper arriving at the station. He's just like, oh, whatever, cool. So then they're like, hey, like Joyce Byers is like in there. Her kid's missing. He's like, oh, okay, cool. So he's very like dismissive at first. He's doing the report, but he's also very dismissive about it. He's like, like 99% of the time, kids, when they go missing, they're really just with the other parent. So like, have you talked to their dad, the kid's dad? And he's like, she's like, he wouldn't be with his dad. He wouldn't. Like, his dad didn't really care about him. Like, he used to call him the F word, say that he was a little fairy, and that he was whatever. So this is where you start seeing that like Joyce has an attachment, and she definitely sees Will as needing protection. So like it's not saying that she loves Will more than Jonathan, but it's just saying that she feels like he is more special. In the sense of like he needs more attention and more protection. So then we cut to Hawkins' laboratory. There was a scientist that got murdered, and so that's where we get introduced to one of the other antagonists in the series, which is Dr. Branner, also known as Papa. And so they go into a section of the laboratory where it's filled with spores and it's dark, gloomy. They find a breach in a wall covered with this like gooey stuff. And they're like, oh, like, we need to find where's the girl. They're like, she couldn't have gone far. So this is where we first get introduced to 11. They cut to 11, and first we don't know. It's just a girl. We don't know her name. She's in a hospital gown. She's super scared, and she's just running around. So she sneaks into this diner, and she notices that the guy is like going out of the kitchen. He's talking to people, so she sneaks into the kitchen, starts eating fries. Like the guy, like finds her obviously, and so like he pulls her in, like questions her, and then he notices she's like in a hospital gown. She's like covered in dirt. So he basically like kind of like after everything is done, he like questions her. He like feeds her, and he's like asking her questions like, "Do you have parents? Like, who do I call?" So finally, he sees like the tattoo on her wrist that says 11, and he's like, "Okay, you got to give me something, otherwise I'm taking the food away. If you answer some of my questions, or if you give me something, I'll cook as many as you want." So finally, she's like, he's like, "What's that tattoo?" She's like, 11. Like 11. What is that? She's me. So that's where like now it's her identity. It's not. It's as of now, 11 is just not a number. It's what she identifies as. So um he basically called Child Protective Services, and so they cut to a search party. Now they found a bike, so now they're officially like, after filing the missing report, now they're forming a search party for in Hawkins. And so Mr. Clark, which is the kid's science teacher at the school, he's talking to Hopper, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like like this is very sad and whatever." And he's like, "Yeah, my kid's in the city with his mom, with her mom." Hopper tells Mr. Clark, and then like Mr. Clark, I can't remember, he says something, and Hopper's just dismissive. He's just numb, so he's just whatever, cool, and he keeps walking, and it comes off a little rude, and then Mr. Clark, this woman approaches Mr. Clark, and she tells him, she's like, his daughter died. And that's when you find out the first time that his daughter's died, and that's why he's the way he is, or he's being introduced the way he is kind of like broken. So then, at the same time, in the diner, you have child protective services or whatever social services showing up to the diner, and as they walk in, they basically like execute Benny, poor Benny, R.I.P. And so 11 sees it and she starts running out, and there's like two men waiting at the door. So like they haven't really introduced her powers. They show her doing something, but you don't really tell that it's her, because all of a sudden it's her eating the burger after he asks her questions, and like the fan is running, but it's making noises and it's annoying her. And so she decides to like stop the the fan. But like there's no nosebleed or anything. And that's a big thing, because every time she uses powers, her nose bleeds. So then all of a sudden there's like the two guys, and all you hear is wah! And so Dr. Brenner shows up as well. He walks there and they're just on the floor. So she runs off, and as the boys are like, okay, let's go, they sneak out of their house to basically kind of like, like look for Will, because everybody has a curfew now. Now that it's officially a missing person, they put a curfew on the town. And so the boys, they all sneak off. And so they run into 11, which is kind of like, it's like a weird transition, because now they have the disappearance of somebody and somebody new showing up. So it's like a coincidence. The boys, they take 11 into Mike's house, and then you have like a little bit of like a interrogation going on, because you got Dustin and Lucas asking her questions. They're like, yo, like, who are you? Like, did you come? Like, you know where Will is? Like, all this. And Mike is also interested, but he can see that she's visibly scared. So this is where like he starts getting like protective over her, and it starts that bond between them. So this where like he finds, after they leave, that he finds the tattoo as well. And he's like, that's cool, I just never seen a kid with a tattoo, like what does that mean? And she's like, 11. He's like, okay, well, like, how about we name you L for short, or short for 11. And so like now it's like it makes the bond between them bigger, because of the fact that like now he named her. She is not a number to him. She's not, like nothing to him. He's given her a name. He's given her a sense of identity. So at the end of the first chapter, we also get a phone call from Will. There's the phone rings at the buyer's house, and Joyce answers, and all you hear is like breathing, and then all of a sudden you hear mom, and there's a shock, and like that's it. So Joyce tells Hopper about it. She's like, he called, I heard him. And they kind of like get into a little argument, because he's like, like that could have just been any random kid crank calling, or any kid. She's like, no, I'm telling you, I heard his voice. And Hopper is still kind of dismissive, and then so she kind of like digs at him. She's like, yo, like, if Sarah called you, would you not recognize her voice? And Hopper's like, damn. It was like one of those damn. So so Jonathan follows Hopper out to like take him to his car, apologize for Joyce's behavior. He's like, hey, don't worry about it. Just take care of your mom. She needs to be taken care of. So just do that. And so then after that, this is where Mike enables and begins Elle's addiction to waffles. He feeds her a waffle. Or this is the first time that we see Elle consuming a waffle, and then all of a sudden she just goes fucking berserk on waffles after that. So now we're starting to see subplots happening. Now is when we start seeing division of different characters and their different stories. Because now we go back to the high school where Nancy is with Barb and Steve is like, my parents are out of town. I'm gonna throw a party. Do you want to go? And like Nancy's studying because she's worried about her test scores for this big test coming up. And Barbara's like, girl, you gotta worry about yourself. And so like Nancy's like, but it's a party with Steve. Come on, let's just go. I don't know. And so at the same time they see Steve's got his friends and they see Jonathan hanging up a poster and they start saying like snarky remarks, like, oh, um, like he probably did it. He killed his own brother. He fucking like did something. And so after that, Jonathan has a little bit of a flashback on the way back home where they show him and Will listening to the Clash, the should I stay or should I go? Should I stay or should I go now? If I go, there will be trouble. And if I stay, it will be double. Anyway, the little dance party. So he has a little flashback, and that's the moment that they show that song becomes an anchor, not only between the brothers, but an anchor for Will that keeps him attached to our side of the world, or just our side. So it's an emotional moment because it's like, hey, like this is one of a song. It's Jonathan's favorite band and or one of his favorite bands, and so like he's like trying to like introduce Will to new music and stuff, and showing him his new stereo, and at the same time in the background you hear their parents fighting, you hear Joyce and Lonnie fighting, so it becomes like an emotional bond moment between the brothers, and then as he's going back home, you got Papa, Dr. Brenner, showing up to their house and using some kind of like ET gadget, tracking down to see if there was any connection between Elle or Demogorgons or anything from that rift, like that breach. And so they find, in the shed, they find like a little bit of the goo. So Mike decides to skip school now because Elle's there, and he's like showing her the house. He's like showing her the recliner chair, showing her different things. And so like then she sees like a picture of Nancy, and she's like pretty, and he's like, yes, like like just brother being brother. Like somebody says your sister, your sibling's attractive or like handsome or pretty, and you're like, I guess they look like a monkey to me, but you do you, boo. So then Mike's mom comes back home early, and so like he hides her, and when he hides her, he puts her in a closet, which triggers like a traumatic moment for her, one of her memories, which is that after every time they failed an experiment, like if they did a trial or something like that, they would get tossed into like the solitary confinement room. So like she was just like having a flashback memory of that. So then Hopper decides to investigate Benny's death because when they show up to the diner, it looked like he committed suicide. And so it's one of those things where like he starts something doesn't feel right. And it's like we got a missing kid, there's a suicide happening. Something's not sitting right with him. So he decides to ask questions around, and one of the people that go to the diner, he's like, nah, we had plans. And so like this is one of those things where like it's every crime show always does it, or like documentaries about murder or whatever, like they never suspect when it comes to like suicidal, the first thing that they look is like if there was like plans. A lot of people, like one of their common things is that they don't make plans. Like if they know they're ending things, they don't make official plans. And so like the guy that Hopper was asking questions, he goes like, yeah, we had like big fishing plans next Saturday. He was really excited about it. So that kind of starts nudging Hopper um, in a way where he's like, okay, there's something going on. So then they keep doing search parties. They're combing the woods, and then they find like a sewer pipe that leads to um, the Hawkins laboratory, and there's like a piece of cloth. And they're like, I mean, would why would a kid run in there? He's like, he's scared enough; he'll run anywhere. Plus, Jonathan, his brother, said that he was really good at hiding. So um, then Lucas and Dustin are over at the house, and they're still not trusting Elle. They're like, bro, like, let's tell your parents. Like, there's something we don't trust her. She's crazy. So this is where like she shows her powers to the boys for the first time officially. So like Lucas is like trying to leave the room, and he opens the door, and Elle shuts it. Tries to open the door, shuts it, and she bleeds. This is like where it's like inconsistencies because like she doesn't bleed every time. So it begs you to question what causes the bleeding. Is it emotional? Is it like during stress? Like, was that moment stressful for her and that caused the bleeding? Um, so then they take her downstairs and they're like, okay, cool. So you got power. So clearly you know something. So, like, show us power, show us things, whatever. Like, Dustin asks her to, like, float the Millennium Falcon and he's like, just make it float. Just falls. Just come on, you can do it. Make it float. Nothing. So um they're in the basement, and she's like she grabs like the sorcerer piece from the D&D campaign that they were doing, and she's like, this is Will. And she puts it on the mat, on like the D&D mat. And then he's like, okay, yeah, that's Will. So where is he? And she turns the mat upside down, which is what we're going to refer to the other side of the world or the other dimension, the upside down. And so they're like, she puts it on that mat, and they're like, that's like an upside down mat. So like he's on the other side of the mat, and they're like, is he safe? And she's like, no. And so like, um, they, she's like, what's going on? And so she places a Demogorgon piece. She's like, and they're like, that's a Demogorgon. She's like, so at the same time, you have Joyce back home. She started communicating with Will. Like, he started playing the Clash in his radio because he had the tape that Jonathan gave him. So he starts playing the Clash in there in the room, and all of a sudden, like, there's like lights just kind of like brightening up, and they flash down, and then she sees kind of like a figure, kind of like, they said it was Will, but to me, I think it was a Demogorgon. I don't think it was Will because of the way that it looked. It looked like too big. But when you look at descriptions of that scene and everything, it says some say that it was Will. I don't think it was Will. But then like she runs, she's like scared as fuck. Like it was like Freddy, like Nightmare on Elm Street, kind of like things pressing on the wall. So she runs, and then all of a sudden, like, the Clash starts blasting again. She's like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna go in. So she goes back into the room, and she's like waiting, and like she thinks that it's Will communicating with her. At the same time, you have like all these different things, these different stories happening all at the same time, because you got Nancy at Steve's party because she showed up with Barb. And, she and Steve decide to take their relationship to the next level. They decide to get more intimate, and Barb doesn't think that's a good idea. And Nancy's like, I think you should leave. So Barb, being the friend that she is, she decides to hang out, and she stays by the pool because she feels like Nancy will need her, or she's just waiting for Nancy to be done, so that they can go home together, because she's like, no man left behind. So she sits by the pool, and Jonathan is basically, he decides to go to the woods to take pictures and see if he can find any evidence that leads to Will. And he stumbles on the party, so he's like taking pictures, and he's like crossing that borderline, creepy because he's like taking pictures of Nancy and Steve, and like then when they go upstairs, she's like taking pictures of Nancy getting undressed in the window. It's like, bro, chill. But one of the pictures that he takes is of Barb sitting at the pool. And then all of a sudden he drops, I think he drops something or he's like changing something. And he looks up and Barb's gone. And so that's where like the episode kind of ends. That ends the second chapter. And then we move to the third chapter. So this is where the third chapter starts, and it starts picking up right where we left off. Barb disappeared, and now we show Barb in the upside down, and she is like in the pool, which is covered with like mines, and there's like it's just dark, cold, gloomy, and she's just walking around. She's searching. She's like trying to get out. And all of a sudden, a Demogorgon just comes out of the wall and like growls at her, like screeches, and like she runs, finds the ladder, and like she's like climbing out, and she's like calling for Nancy. At the same time, Nancy's like about to have sex. She's about to get laid, and she stops. She's like, "You hear that?" And so like Steve was like, "No, I didn't hear nothing." So like they keep going, and then we have this emotional moment where like Barb is like grabbing something. She's grabbing the rails of the stairs, and the last thing she just says is Nancy, and then she gets taken away by the Demogorgon. So then the next day, Jonathan goes back home, and he wakes up to find Joyce in Will's room covered in lamps. The whole bedroom is covered in lamps, and she tells him, she's like, he's talking to me. He was here. He was playing the radio, that song that you guys like, and he's been communicating with me through lights. And Jonathan's like, "Mom, you're exhausted. Just get some rest." There was just probably just like a flare in the generator. It was just relax. I think you're tired. So then the boys are getting ready to like go on a rescue mission. Now that they know that Will's like alive and Will's like in the upside down, they go on a rescue mission. So they're like getting supplies, they're like getting food, they're getting like weapons. Like Lucas got his slingshot and all that. And then Nancy starts feeling guilty because the next morning Barb's not there. She's not at school. She calls them the house. She's like, hey, like, oh yeah. She's not there. Oh, okay. Sorry. No, I forgot. She's actually at the library. So she's like starting to get concerned. And so then 11's at home while the kids are at school. Like Mike leaves and he tells her like, here's my watch. When that watch goes and says 315, just meet us out back. So then 11 floats the Millennium Falcon. She's like bored at the house, and there's no nosebleed. So that's where like I'm saying like there's like inconsistencies when she uses power. Maybe because of the fact that it was a relaxed atmosphere, there was no pressure. It was easier for her to control that, because you would think that keeping something afloat takes more concentration than just shutting a door. So like you would think that would cause her to have a nosebleed, but it didn't. And so she's just there sitting. So then she gets bored and she starts going through the house. She goes to Nancy's room. She goes to the Barca Lounger, the recliner. When she goes to Nancy's room, she's looking at like pictures of Nancy and Barb. And like you can see that it kind of like hurts her, because she feels, it's not necessarily jealous, but it's like a type of jealousy where like she feels like she missed out because of the fact that she was locked as she was. And so then she goes back down and she sees a commercial of like a Coke commercial, and it triggers another memory of her, basically where like she crushes a can with her mind. And then after that, like she goes out. It's 3:15 at the same time at school, or before that, Mike and the kids are getting bullied again by the bullies that they encountered the first time at school, where like they made fun of Dustin for his condition and all that. So um, they push him, and he kind of like cracks his jaw, his chin a little bit. So then, as she's waiting for them to get off out of school, there's a cat that's running by, and like the cat kind of like meows at her. And when he meows at her, it triggers another memory of her. And this is where like you see another side where they're trying to like do like mind control. And so they were doing like mind control, and she had like an aggressive cat, and I guess her job was to calm the cat down, and she wasn't able to. So they basically put her in that solitary confinement room, and all of a sudden, like she tosses one guy across the hall, she snaps the neck of the other dude, and it kind of like uh, impresses Papa, Dr. Brenner. So he walks in, and she's like, Papa, Papa, and so like he carries her and takes her away. Meanwhile, you got Joyce. She's like buying all these Christmas lights at this point. Like now she's like in a point where like she's like, yeah, we need Christmas lights. Like this is happening. This is real. Will's communicating with me, so she hangs them all over the place. There's Christmas lights everywhere in the house, all over the ceiling, all over the walls. So Karen brings Joyce some castor oil. She's like, I just wanted to check up on you. You know, they start talking, moms being moms, and she's a little concerned. There's all these Christmas lights hanging everywhere, but Holly is, well, she's guided to the Will's bedroom through the lights because like the moms are talking, so they're not paying attention. So Holly starts seeing that the lights start flashing one by one, guiding her into Will's bedroom. And when she does that, all of a sudden, like the lights start flickering, and she's like drawn to this wall, the same wall that Will or the Demogorgon appeared. And all of a sudden, she just basically like there's like this figure popping out, and Karen like grabs her. Like she noticed that Holly wasn't there, so she grabs her, and then like Joyce is like, "Did you see something? You should not be in here. Did you see something?" And Holly goes, "Because this is like she's like what like she's supposed to be like 4 or 5 here." So she's just like a little girl, like scared. And so she's like, so then Hopper starts investigating the lab that, he goes in and tries to like, they tell him he can't go in. So he's like, look, man, we got a kid missing. And there was a pipe with some clothing and some evidence that there's a pipe leading to here. Is there any way that you can just like make something happen for me, please? So he's able to get into the facility, and the boss of the security guard is like, like we have nothing. Like I can show you the tapes, and so he shows them the tapes, and so something doesn't sit right with him. So as he's leaving, he talks to the deputies, and he's like, "Do you remember doing a search party on the 7th, the night of the 7th?" He's like, "No, it was raining really bad." Exactly. Did you notice any rain on that video? He's like, no, like exactly. So that's where he starts, having some more gut feelings telling him something ain't right. So then that's where like things start getting really interesting, and this is where we start getting to one of the iconic moments of Stranger Things of the first season that has like made it to Halloween and Christmas as part of like decorations, like normal decorations, which is the Christmas light scenes. So now Joyce is at home, and she starts, the lights start flashing and flickering, and she's like, "Will, are you here? Like, where are you?" And so all the lights start guiding her to this little cubby behind some shelves. So she opens the cubby, she moves the shelf, she opens the cubby, gets in there, and like she has this bundle of lights, and she's like, "Will, if you're here, answer me." And so like the lights flash, and she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna ask you questions." And like now it's like blink 1 for yes and 2 for no. And she's like, "Where are you? Or are you here?" And he's like, "Yes." "Are you alive?" "Yes." "Are you safe?" "No." And then like the communication kind of cuts off. She's like, oh no. So then she devises this plan. She goes to her wall and she uses paint and she starts painting the alphabet and putting one light specifically on top of each letter, or making it to where there's one light specifically. Which kind of, I mean, unless I missed something that they explain it later, but it kind of breaks the continuity of some of the theories of the show, because technically when you're in the upside down, you can communicate through lights, but you can only use lights that have been there before, or like that were in place. Like for example, like the the um the radio was there, the lamps have been there. So like the whole Christmas lights kind of like breaks the continuity of it, because those Christmas lights have not always been hung there, unless it just existed in the world and like in the upside down because they were in a box. And even then, it wouldn't make sense either, because she went to the store and bought extra lights because she didn't have enough. So it kind of breaks the continuity of it, just because of the fact that like he's able to communicate through them, unless it's because of the fact that he is special, he is Will the sorcerer, and maybe that's why rules didn't apply to him. Plot armor didn't apply. Like a plot armor saved him. So, but yeah. So she's asking questions. She's like, "Where are you?" And then all of a sudden he starts basically kind of like making it into a Ouija board. He's like, "Right, R-I," and starts spelling right here. And then all of a sudden the lights start flickering again, and it says, "Run." And when it says "run," basically a Demogorgon pops out from a wall behind her, and she just takes off. She's scared. She doesn't know what to do, so she takes off, and then she grabs a fucking, like, after that, she's like, she grabs a hatchet. She's like, I'm fucking running. So like obviously when she came back, nothing happened, but she's like, I ain't running. So she's like, she sits on the couch with a hatchet and she's waiting for Will to talk to her. It's like it's a pretty badass scene, because she's just sitting on that couch with a hatchet, just but one of the other stories that we got going on is a confrontation between Steve and Jonathan, because Jonathan was in the dark room of the school, developing his pictures, and this girl walks in with an itty bitty waist and a round thing. In your face, you get sprung. No, I'm just kidding. So this a girl walks in and she looks at the pictures that he's developing, and she sees what they are, which is like pictures of Nancy and Steve and all that. And so she runs up to Steve, fucking little snitch. Snitches get stitches, bitches. So she runs to Steve and she tells him, and so like Steve confronts him with his friends and little bullies, and they're like, "Yo, we heard you've been taking some interesting pictures. Let me see." And they grab his bag, they grab the pictures, and they see what they are. They grab his camera, break it, and then they tell Nancy, they're like, "Yo, like he's been, taking some extra, giving a new definition to stalker and all this." And so they break the picture, they rip them, but Nancy looks down and she notices that Barb is in one of the pictures. And so like she grabs all those pictures and takes her with her. And so they're the boys are going with with 11, which they start during the day, and then like they're like going around at night and whatever. But when they start, there's one scene that also kind of like cements one of the recurring themes that about Mike's and 11's relationship. So like when she notices like his scar on his chin that it's bleeding, she's like, what happened? And he's like, "Oh, I just fell." And she goes like, "Friends don't lie." And like that's the thing that they say to each other throughout the show. It's a pretty important line, because that's what they say. They literally tell each other whenever like one of the others is in trouble and like the other can sense that they're not being honest or telling everything. They're like, "Yo, friends don't lie." But so he tells her the truth and whatever. So then at night, when that whole Demogorgon scene is happening with Joyce and like the alphabet and all that, the boys are outside with Elle, and they're losing their shit because she took him to Will's house. And they're like, just Will's house. She's like, yeah, he's here. Like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like, oh, I told you she was crazy. She belongs to the nut house. So, when that happens, like as they're losing their shit, cops and ambulances fly by. So then they go follow him, and they arrive at a quarry, and that's where they find Will's body. They start pulling out Will's body, and so like now you're like confused. Now you're like, what's happening? So, Mike starts lashing out at 11. He's like, you told us that you knew where he was, and you told us that you could get us to him. He was supposed to be alive. And so he just runs off. So then we end the chapter that way. And we see the beginning of chapter 4 is like, news spreading around about his body being found. Like everybody just wanting to, accept it. Joyce is the only one that's not accepting it. So, she communicates, she tells Hopper, like, he's been communicating with me. He's been using the lights, he's been using the radio. And Hopper's like, bro, like, what is going on? So he tries to tell her, like, like when Sarah died, he tries to relate to her. When Sarah died, like, I used to see her everywhere. I would hear her voice. I would find little things that would make me believe that she was alive, but she wasn't. And so Jonathan is grieving in his room, listening to the Clash, crying because now it's become real. Now his little brother is dead. So Hopper, like, Joyce is like, I'm not crazy, just leave me alone. So Hopper decides to sleep in his car, just stay on standby. And at the same time, Mike is, also grieving and lashing out at Elle, who is holding this radio, and she's like letting the static. She's doing something with the radio. He just doesn't know what it is, but all you hear is the static. And he's like, just knock that off. Static. Knock it off. Static. And then all of a sudden you hear Will singing, should I stay or should I go now? Should I stay or should I go now? And he's like, whoa, that was Will. She's like, yeah, I told you. And like her nose starts bleeding a little bit. So, she was using her powers to somehow tune into where Will was. So then Joyce had to go with Jonathan to the morgue to identify the body, which she was against it anyway because she doesn't believe that he's dead. She refuses to believe him. And so she goes in and she's like, I don't know what the fuck that is, but that is not my son. That thing in there, that's not my son. So that starts already kind of like affecting Hopper because he's like, what is going on, bro? And she finds out that the local coroner didn't actually do the autopsy. It was somebody else. It was a state man, somebody from state. And so like he's like already kind of like, that's weird. So then Joyce and Jonathan get into it publicly. They make a big scene because Jonathan's like, yo, like, we got to make a funeral. She's like, a funeral? That wasn't Will back there. Will's not dead. And he's like, I just want us to move on. I just want us to like be able to be happy and like, like, I mean, be happy is kind of hard at this moment, but like he's trying to like move on with his life because he wants to take care of his little brother, not, keep pretending that he's alive and ignore that body that looked like his brother or was identified as his brother's. And you got Nancy and Steve clashing because of the fact that they're arguing about, now that Barb's officially also missing. now there's going to be questions. And one of those questions is going to be like, where were you? And we were at Steve's house having a party, and he's worried about what his parents are going to think. And meanwhile, she's like, bro, like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? So she gets questioned by the police, and that turns into a big thing because all of a sudden, like, deputies are asking questions about her having sex with Steve. Like, did you have sex with Steve? Like, why did you and Barb fight? And all this, and they start focusing on the wrong things and not focusing on Barb. So her mom's there, so it's kind of embarrassing for her, but it's also frustrating because of the fact that, like, she is going through kind of like the same thing that Joyce was going through. She's just getting dismissed by authority figures, parents, everybody, and nobody's taking her serious. So then Mike calls Dustin and Lucas over, and he's like, yo, this is what happened last night. We heard him singing that song that he likes, the one that Jonathan showed him, and whatever. And they're like, she used a radio. And they're like, maybe we need a bigger radio. So they think back of the radio that Mr. Clark showed them. That's a big radio and supposed to like be able to help them communicate to Australia if they wanted to, because the radio frequencies can reach so far. So they have a plan. They devise a plan to like sneak Elle into school, and they dress her up. And then this is where you see like Mike having like a little crush on Elle because like they put a wig on her. He even helps put makeup on her and everything. And it's a really cool little funny scene because like he's putting makeup on her and she's like never had makeup, and he's like, yo, just relax. And she's like, cool. So I don't know if it's like if you watch it, you see that it's either like the real characters breaking, but it looked so true to the moment that they just kept it because of the smirk that Elle has, Millie Bobby Brown. So, but anyway, she gets dressed up and he's like, oh, you look good. You look really good. And like Lucas and Dustin in the background are like, bro, are you flirting right now? Like, ew. Because you gotta remember, like, they're in middle school. They're just like now getting into like even liking girls and stuff like that. So they head to the school. Then at the same time you have Brenner. You got Dr. Brenner going back to that same section in the laboratory that had a breach. And he's sending this man through the breach, and at first, like, there's no communication, then there's communication, and then all of a sudden he's just screaming. The harness is being pulled, and finally, like, they're able to retract the harness, but it's covered in blood. So it shows that there's danger on the other side of the breach. So Nancy gets home, and she's like super frustrated about everything that happened because she finally like told her mom that, you know, she did have sex with Steve, that Steve wasn't just a friend, because as of right now she had been denied. She's like, Steve's just a friend, there was nothing going on. But now she finally had to like tell her, come clean about it. So she told her that she was having sex with Steve. And when she gets to her room, she remembers that she had those pictures that Jonathan took with Barb, and like she notices that figure behind her. So she starts putting everything together, and she's like, just doesn't look like it has a face. So she puts that together. Then there's a school assembly going, and Mr. Clark runs into the boys and Elle trying to get into the AV club room. He tells them, you guys can go in after the assembly. So they go to the assembly, and you know, everybody's like fine. The school teachers are like, you know, making a thing, and the boys are insulted. They're mad because they're like, half of these people probably didn't even know his name till yesterday. So like, they're just a bunch of fakers. And they look across and they see Troy, one of the bullies, with his friend, just laughing, and they get really pissed off. So then, after the assembly's done, they confront him. Mike goes like, yo, what the hell? He's like, oh, you know what they said? Grief has a funny way of showing sometimes. And they just start laughing again. And he's like, oh, he was a fairy. He's now in fairyland or whatever. So Mike gets really mad and he shoves him as he's walking away. He shoves the other bully, and he turns around. He's like, "Oh, you're dead meat." And he's about to like punch him, and all of a sudden he's like frozen. And he starts pissing himself, and everybody's like making fun of him. And everybody's like, "Oh!" And then like Mike looks back, and 11's like behind him, going like with a little bit of a nosebleed and a little smirk, looking all cool. And she just walks away. So everybody starts like making fun of him. So then they go to the AV club. They start like, she starts working on everything and she's having another flashback. This flashback was Dr. Brenner giving her a picture of a man in the facility, and he told her her assignment was to find where he was, and he was going to be reading something and to repeat the words. And she's like, "I'll do you one better. I'll one up you." She finds him, and then she connects what he's like, his voice, to one of the telecoms that are in the room, and starts projecting what he's saying. And he's like, "Oh." So then Jonathan is confronted by Nancy. Not confronted, but she's like, "Yo, like, this is what's happening." Like, and so she also went into the woods. She went to Steve's house at some point, and she sees a Demogorgon, and she's like, describes it as this faceless thing. And she tells Jonathan, and she's like, "Yeah, I just saw something." And he's like, "It was this figure with like long arms." And then he says that it looked like it didn't have no face. And then that's where like they start connecting the dots that it something real, because that's what Joyce described. It was a figure with long arms and like no face. And she saw the same thing. And they're saying that it was a bear. So then they decided they were gonna like do more investigation. They develop the picture, and then like they see it more clear, and they see what's standing behind Barb. And as the boys are trying to have Elle connect the radio, Will finally is able to get through, and Joyce finds a breach in the living room where the Demogorgon came out the first time. And so she finds a breach, and she's able to talk to Will now. She's like, "Where are you? What's going on?" And he's like, "I don't know. It's all dark. It's cold. It's gloomy." And they start talking. At the same time, these scenes are happening simultaneously. Elle is broadcasting everything that Will is saying. Like, you can hear the whole conversation, what he's saying, how he's like, what he's telling Joyce and everything. And then all you hear is like a loud Demogorgon, and Will starts running, and she's like, "Hide, go to safety." And so like she decides to like rip through that wall, and it turns out that, you know, the breach was closed, so now it's just a regular wall. So while that's happening, Hopper is at the morgue, and he decides to cross a line. He's like, he sneaks into, he said, "Oh, I forgot my hat," and then he beats the guy that's like guarding the thing, the morgue. And so he goes in and he sees the body. He's like, "Oh, man." But then like he takes more of the little blanket that they put on top. He takes a little bit more, and then he touches the body, and like, hold up, something feels weird. And that's where he decides to cross the line. And he's like, "I am so fucked if this is wrong." So he pulls out his knife, cuts into it, and then turns out it's full of stuffing. It's full of cotton. So it's a fake body. So now it really does, you know, clarify, it does solidify that Joyce was right. Solidifies his gut feeling that something is wrong. So all these things happen, and that's how kind of like how we end the last episode, or the fourth chapter. Now it's where like everything starts, all the pieces start slowly falling into place, connecting everything full circle. So now we have to see what happens in chapters 5 to 8. Is Will going to be found? Are there going to be more questions to answer about 11? Is Hopper going to actually get down to the bottom of it? Anyway, you have been amazing. My name is G. You can also call me Papi. So this has been the first official Papi Recap with G Play 7. Don't forget to hit that follow and or subscribe button. Also, if you're a gaming fan, don't forget to go to Twitch where I stream as well. That way we can talk about your theories if it's an ongoing show, or you can tell me your favorite comments, your favorite moments in the comments or on stream. This has been great. Papi, out.